October 18th regular board meeting. The next on the agenda is the approval of consent agenda, which includes authorization of payment of claims, approval of supplemental financial information, and approving the human resource activity as amended. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I forgot for discussion. Any discussion? Okay, aye. That motion passed. Next on the agenda is a public written comment on topics not pertinent to the agenda action items, and there is no written comment which we received. So we'll move on. The current Idaho General Fund revenue report is self-explanatory and is included in the public information. Next, we'll turn the time over to Ms. Courtney Fisher who will provide us recognitions, media report, and community relations update.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, trustees, Dr. Howell, and Ms. Johnson. So tonight I'll be folding in the recognitions in with the media and community relations report. So tonight we will recognize several individuals who through their actions support and embody our district's mission to think more, learn more, and be more together. So at this time I would like to invite Ms. Allie Goulden to join me at the podium. And Allie, I believe, is joined by some Highland administration and teachers. Allie is a junior at Highland High School, and she was recently selected to represent both Highland and the school district as a member of the State Superintendent Sherry Ibarra's Student Advisory Council. This is the second time that Highland has had a representative. Superintendent Ibarra just started that council last year, and so there was a Highland student last year, and then we have Ms. Goulden, who is representing us 2 years in a row. Students from different grade levels, backgrounds, culture, school size, and areas within Idaho will serve on the council to share their opinions and offer advice about educational opportunities and policy in Idaho. So through that, they meet quarterly in Boise. So Ms. Goulden will be traveling to Boise, and she will play a direct role in improving education for all students in Idaho, gain important leadership, public speaking, decision-making, and team-building skills, and develop a network of support and mentors through exposure. So I just wanted to recognize her here in front of you all tonight and congratulate you on this honor. I have the certificate for you and also this, and thank you for just being a wonderful representative for School District 25 and Highland High School. And if you will go introduce yourself to our board. And we hope that you will keep in touch and let us know how that council goes. Okay, thank you so much. At this time, I would also like to invite Ms. Rainbow Maldonado to join me at the podium. Hello, how are you, friend?
Hi.
So this year, School District 25 is taking flight with kindness. And I wanted to invite a representative from Kind Community here with us tonight. September 18th through the 23rd marks the 8th annual Kind Community Week in Pocatello. This is unique to Pocatello, and we are really lucky to have this organization and Ms. Maldonado and her board. So Kind Community believes that a strong community is built through simple acts of kindness. We have partnered with Kind Community since its inception in 2015, and the organization continues to promote kind activities during Kind Week, but also partnering with us on other initiatives throughout the year. This year, in addition to their annual magazine and Kind Pledge, you'll see yard signs as you drove up. They're here. They're in front of every school. They also have the pledge banner. We have our pledge banner out here. We encourage you all to take that pledge and sign it as well. And also this year, new to Kind Week is a coloring book that I have a copy of, and I can provide you with copies that every elementary learner will be receiving sometime this week, Wednesday, I believe.
Yesterday and today.
Oh, yesterday and today, they already have them. So, and it will be in the paper tomorrow as an insert. So we're just really lucky to have this endeavor and promoting. We are a district who focuses on relationships. This is an endeavor that helps us build those relationships and continue to foster that culture of positivity that we wish to see in our schools. So we encourage all of our staff, learners, and family to uphold the Kind Pledge, which reads, I pledge to today and every day to be humankind, to treat myself and others with respect, to take a stand against bullying and intolerance and uplift those around me, to embrace and celebrate diversity, to understand that I am an empowering force for creating a kind community, and that I can be proactive in fostering a positive culture wherever I am, at home, at school, at work, and at play. So I just want to thank you so much for all of your efforts. Thank you. And let our board wish you congratulations and thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. I sure will.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you.
So good to see you. Okay, and now we have a bonus Employee of the Month award. Normally, we start these awards in September. However, we felt that there was one other employee that deserved, warranted us adding a PI award in September. So I would like to invite Miss Shauna Miller to join me at the podium. And those of you that nominated her are welcome to join us as well if you wish. The Employee of the Month PIES Award recognizes employees who positively influence educational success. This award is for employees who go above and beyond in that effort, and Lookout Credit Union partners with us in providing this award. So tonight, as I mentioned, we're celebrating Ms. Shauna Miller, who serves as the district's insurance administrative assistant. Now, as you all know, we did a major transition this year with insurance, and I can attest to Shauna and her just, you're gonna make me emotional. Day in and day out here on the weekends, you drive by here at 7 o'clock, and she was here to make sure that every single employee in this district had what they need to continue that coverage, and so that nobody was left behind in that endeavor, whether they wanted to waive, whether they wanted to add spouses or children or other dependents, that she was here to make sure that that happened. She was nominated for the award by 4 different individuals who work very closely with her. 2 of those individuals are here with us, Miss Cheryl Howell, Miss Shauna Sprague, and she was also nominated by Tara Jensen and Desiree Brown, who serve in our district main office. So Tara wrote, Shauna has gone above and beyond with the insurance switchover. I feel she has been extremely helpful with a positive attitude. She has put in a ton of hours for this seamless transition. I can imagine that she has had to deal with some angry individuals, and she handled it with grace. Shauna wrote, since our district adopted to switch to the new state insurance plan, I have noticed Shauna working tirelessly to make sure the transition for our employees goes as smoothly as possible. On several occasions, I have driven by the district well after hours and on the weekends, and Shauna's car is in the parking lot, making sure that employees sign up correctly, answering thousands of questions, and fixing or adding information that was forgotten. And she has done it all with a smile on her face. What a huge job it was to take that on and make sure that district employees are covered and ready to go with the new insurance plan, and not once mentioning the overwhelming amount of work and the long extra hours that she's put in. Shauna is a shining example of what a School District 25 employee going above and beyond for her fellow coworkers. Desiree Brown wrote, Shauna works so hard and always stays late. She is so appreciated here in our district, and we couldn't do it without her. Cheryl Howell wrote, Shauna Miller has worked very hard in coordinating a smooth transition from our old insurance companies to our new ones. She cares about each employee in the district and works with each one individually to make sure that the plan they're signing up for is the best one for their situation. Whether it's with medical insurance, disability, or retirement, Shauna is very knowledgeable in her position and has worked many hours and many months to make this as easy as possible for each and every one of us. We are so lucky to have her in that position to take care of us and truly want to do the best she can for every employee. She is very pleasant, and I can't express enough how much she truly cares for our current needs with the transition, as well as those who are retiring and those individuals in between preparing for their future. She is more than deserving of this award. So with that, please join me in congratulating Shauna. And you receive this certificate as well as, because this is an addition, you get 2 $25 gift cards from Lookout Credit Union, totaling the normal $50. And if you will let our board congratulate you and thank you so much.
Congratulations,
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cheryl.
So I was gonna say,
Thanks for nominating her. Thank you.
I love that line, shining example, and she certainly is. So I'm just going to roll right over into the media report, if that's okay. I sent the media report, and it's in your addendum. So you have all the headlines and articles that are of interest, including the ribbon cutting we did last week for the Westmark baseball field at Highland High School Stadium. Lots of exciting things happening in our district and in the education world, including the special session for the new monies that will be put into the legislature. So those articles are all linked in that document, as well as some of those analytics that I generally go over with you. I did want to just give you one update, which is pretty important and well received from our end, which is the completion of that and closure of the OCR complaint. Now, the OCR is the Office of Civil Rights, and so we've had this complaint about website accessibility that we've been dealing with really since I joined nearly 5 years ago. So this has been an ongoing process, and I just wanted to let you know that we have met all the satisfied all the obligations under that agreement, and OCR will take no further action with respect to this matter, and the case is closed. So that website ADA compliance is a top priority for us. We will continue to be training any staff members who are responsible for updating or maintaining any of our website pages. We have several school webmasters. The attorney who worked with us closely on this case has offered to lead additional training for us so that when we're creating PDFs seem to be a really big problem in this world. And so we just want to make sure that as we move forward, we're creating those correctly from the start. And so we'll be engaging in additional ongoing training so that we can make sure that we do not ever have to go through this exercise again. So with that, that completes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Okay, we'll now move on to curriculum and instructions, school safety, and athletics. We'll start with Ms. Amy Bowie, who will report on the following: 2022 Continuous Improvement Plan and the Policy 8203 Graduation Requirements, first reading.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Howell, Ms. Johnson. I have just a couple of things today. The first one is included in your packets, the continuous improvement plan that I provided information on last week at the work session. And the board will be asked to adopt the plan under action items tonight. We presented this at K-12 last week and had input from our principals. And we didn't make any changes. What we did do is, if you remember, I included all those red numbers just for your information, for context. So we'll remove those, and then we'd ask you to approve so we can submit to the state and post that on our website. The other matter is included in your packet. It's Policy 8203, Graduation Requirements. This change just adds clarifying language. The change is very minimal. Because it's a minimal change, you'll be asked to hear the policy on first reading for adoption under action items as provided for in Policy 2102. So here's the change. It simply adds, as it reads now, it says, beginning with the class of 2023, students must participate in ISAT testing as a condition of graduation. We just wanted to clarify that high school students, not just all students, high school students must participate, and we clarified ELA, math, and science. Just we wanted all three ISAT tests listed. So very minimal change, and you'll be asked to hear that on first reading and to adopt as well.
Amy, I just had a quick question.
You betcha.
So as I was scanning through your continuous improvement plan,
Yep.
and this may just be like you were saying, well, so on
No,
page
absolutely.
4, it talks about kindergarten being half day.
Yes.
Is that,
We've talked about that. Yeah, we've spent a lot of time talking about that. Good catch,
Okay.
by the way. So, so the narrative didn't have to be redone this year.
you
And
mentioned that, and I just didn't know.
why didn't we just change that? Here's why. So we're waiting on information from the legislature on what we're going to need to do with the dyslexia. We're going to have to update all of that. So we decided just to put it on as is now, work on changes, and then submit it all at once we can update the, rather than bring it back and forth 3 or 4 times for changes. But we did talk about that. I spoke with Superintendent Howell. I spoke with Ms. Johnson. We were back and forth, like, we changed just this line, which I suppose we could. I suppose we could change that line now. We would just have to edit it multiple times.
And that's fine. Like I said, it just jumped out at me, and I thought,
It jumped out at me as well. So,
see, I'm reading.
I'm so glad you're reading. I sometimes I wonder if anyone reads any of it. So it's awesome. I'm really glad you read it. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, next, Ms. Ray J. Watson will report on the following Head Start program update.
Good evening, board members. Just a quick Head Start update. Currently have 97 enrolled students with 5 classrooms that are in session. They have been able to add a few additional hires, still have a number of open positions, but with the new hires, the program is going to be able to open up another full-day classroom and enroll an additional 20 learners. In regards to the interim final rule, on September 16th, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families announced the intent to publish a final rule that will formally remove the requirement for universal masking in Head Start programs. They indicated that is coming in the near future, so we will see how near that is. They did not indicate a specific date in regards to that. And in regards to facilities, the program anticipates operating classrooms in the new mods by mid-October is the plan. They're just finalizing everything and getting the occupancy permits, and hopefully that will happen this week, and then they'll get things moved in, and they are excited to move out into the new modular units for their classes.
Cool, I bet they are. It's
Thank
been a long time.
Yes, they are. They've been working on it for a long time, so they're very excited.
Well, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, Ms. Sue Pettit will report the following high school speech and debate schedules.
So these schedules should have been included in the athletic ones in August, but we didn't have them finalized yet, and we are actually still waiting on Century High Schools. So tonight, if you will approve Highlands and Pokies, then Centuries will be here for next month, and that way they don't need to come every time they go out of town. It's pre-approved. Okay. Do you have any questions on those? Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, Ms. Tanya Wilkes will report the following gifts and contribution report, camp reconciliation report, camp request, and extended cheer season.
And on those high school activities, we're really going to try to be diligent to be that part of the athletic schedule that you get at the beginning of each trimester as well, so we don't have to do that again. So the first thing we just wanted to report on gifts and contributions. This is new to us in the last year, and so we just have them submit out a Google form so that we know when donations are given and we get approval. And Century High School had a donor want to purchase a trailer for their football program so they can put all of the equipment in and so forth when they're going to games. So all the pads and helmets and things like that, so they don't have to take it all on the buses. So that's what we had a donor purchase. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of those things that are happening in the district. The next is just the camp reconciliations from all summer long and all the way back. I think it was in, since the beginning of the summer season. So we had a lot of camps and clinics and so forth going on, and so that's just the overall reconciliations of those camps and clinics. Do I have any questions over those? Okay. The next one is the current camps and clinics that we've had put in. Century's a little ahead of the schedule, so next June they put in some kids camps for basketball. Love that they're on the ball with that. And then we did have a middle school cheer clinic. They're not charging for that, but it is they're going to be doing drills and so forth and teaching, so we have to have that board approved. So we'd like for you to approve that so that middle school can learn some half stunts Did I say it right? Jessica Halfstance. All right, and then the last item on my agenda is cheer season. So IHSAA reduced the cheer season. It is a long season. Cheer coaches, bless their heart, there's a special place in heaven for them. But it goes throughout the summer, throughout each, season and so forth, and they usually get a little time off in the spring. And so IHSAA moved that up to state competition is February 11th. But boys basketball is not quite finished. There's 2 different roles for cheerleaders. It's the, serving as a support group for athletic events and then competition. But because on February 11th is the state competition, that kind of ends their season, if you will, for the competition side. And so they would like to and if with board approval, IHSAA is in agreement, if the board approves, to extend their season to the end of the basketball season because they will be supporting the athletic events until that time frame. And this will open up opportunities if there's a competition that they would like to go to, again, an approval of the administration and board, that they'll have those opportunities. So they would like you to recognize their season to go to the extent of basketball season. So we do not allow athletic events to go to competitions outside of their season because the coach is on a contract and things like that, unless it's board approved. So that we'd like your approval for that.
Do the families support that?
Yes. And for the most part, it's not something that is, not family supported. So in other words, we're not going to a competition unless we have a meeting with parents and so forth and make sure that that's something that they want to support.
So I could be totally out to lunch on this, but if one of the girls or one of the students didn't want to extend, they can drop out. I'm just thinking, sometimes those seasons go long and they want to get back into doing something else, and with this.
Absolutely. And, we talked a little bit about that as well. The key thing is, the support for the athletic programs and so forth, that's different than the actual competition, but then it's not. It's cheerleading such a gray area sport. No, they do not have to extend out. And if they do go into any competitions, it would be only those that are competing. They wouldn't be taking the whole team and so forth. It would be a competition. Does that make sense? And we would include it. The state only allows them to do 4 competitions a year, and so that would be included in their 4. So they wouldn't go forward during the season and extension another one, so 5. They would just continue that as being part of their 4. So what has happened is there's some of those competitions are outside of that February 11th date, and so that won't allow them to go unless it's a board approved. And typically we don't allow that, but again, because it's gray, they're still cheering for sports. There's, primary role, but secondary role is this competition, which is, very important to them. Did that help?
I have a question about donations. So that's really great that somebody offered to donate a trailer.
Right.
Whenever somebody offers to donate, whether it's redoing the wrestling room, weight room, chairs at Pokey, what do you call it, the auditorium, does that come before the board so that we know about that offer?
That would,
Or is that
some of those things will come through Jonathan as well, but this is,
Come to the board
yes.
to let us know this
Yes.
was offered to.
Yes, and so part of with this trailer, part of when they donate something to the school now owns it. So there's no, okay, my son didn't play in a game, I'm gonna take it back. Once it's donated, then it is now school property.
Oh, yeah.
Does that, okay. But yes, that will be coming in front of the board. And the big thing about these donations, is it's usually from a business, is why I'm overseeing this section. So if it's,
No, I guess my question is it rejected before it has a chance to come to the board ever? Or does it come to the board so that a major donation?
if you look at the gifts and donations policy, there's some procedures in there that it has to be something that is needed and wanted from the school district, so we don't want somebody to come and put a water slide in, you know what I mean, and we don't want that type thing. And it has to tie into academics and then tie into our vision and things like that. So we would present that to you, yes, if it does fit all of those needs and requirements. Does that make sense, those procedures? We make sure that they go through those procedures prior to getting to you. If they do not go through those procedures, we make sure they go back and fix it
This
rather than
donation
get
has
into
been
it.
accepted, though. Yeah,
If from the committee,
the committee.
then yes,
So we're not accepting it or rejecting it. You're just giving us
correct.
the
Is that what
notification.
you're asking me about?
No, that's not really what I was saying.
Oh.
But
Oh,
the, what committee
sorry.
accepted it?
So basically, the donation gives, so basically the directors, so Jonathan and I, and, you're like the Westmark field.
Right.
I brought all of the athletic directors together as a committee and outside parents and so forth to make sure that we are thinking about everything before we take a big donation, like $250,000 on. Is this something that we can maintain? Is this something that's going to help with our facilities? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not just a Tanya and Jonathan
Yes.
acceptance at that point in time. And that's in there too as well. The committee will come together, and the committee will be people that are around whatever that donation is for. So if it's auditorium, I probably wouldn't be a part of that because I'm not over the auditoriums. But if it's athletic, I would be a part of that discussion. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it is really improving our school, then I just.
Yes.
Because if we are able to hear about the donation before it's rejected.
Oh.
Typically, in a larger purchase.
Yes.
You're going to have an agreement that comes before the.
Contract.
To review, yeah, with all
So-
the conditions, the timeframes and so forth.
I see.
In there, it says anything 10,000 or under, we can make sure it follows all the procedures and policies. But if it's over that, then it'll come to you as a contract. Sorry,
All right.
I'm hoping I answered this right.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? The extension? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is business operations, which will be presented by Jonathan Balls. And he will report on free and reduced meals, eligibility report, revised procedures, policy 5304, school food service program, second reading, and policy 8603, bus transportation, second reading.
Okay. Good evening, board members. First thing, again, by just a way of information, the current free and reduced numbers. The first one is shown by school, and then totaled at the bottom, district-wide, 39.62%. The next page is kind of a comparison. Last year, which everything was free, and so we didn't need necessarily these applications, but so we looked into pre-COVID to see those numbers. You can see we're still slightly down a little bit, but we're making some great progress. And so we've identified some schools that are down compared to 3 or 4 years ago, and we'll kind of target those to see if we can get some of these free and reduced applications. And again, the end result is so that our learners can be provided the meals that they need at a reduced cost to help their families.
Does that include breakfast also?
It is.
Okay.
Yep, free and reduced is both for breakfast and lunch. Okay. By next, again, there's just some changes, and it's the same change onto some procedures. It's essentially when we take money, or when our coaches, teachers do fundraisers for student activities, or as Tanya mentioned, gifts and contributions, we needed to say in there that we're not to use the personal financial accounts to be able to collect, even for convenience, to collect any of these funds related to any district or student activity fund. Primarily, the one would be Venmo. Oh, just Venmo me your fundraisers, and then I'll give something to the district. Well, that's commingled with my personal funds, so we can't allow that. Okay, and so that's just kind of a clarification there to these two procedures. You'll see those highlighted in green. Okay, the next one are some policies. So these are coming up for action. The first action is for second reading. Adopting is a second reading. So unless there's any changes, these will, and if you do adopt them as a second reading, they will become policy. And so the first one is regarding food service. And again, there's some clarifying things in the policy, moved kind of to procedure. The main crux of that is to allow our students to go negative in their accounts from $11 to $20.63. And so we've gotten some feedback has been, and I believe it's included in your packet there, that's been good. It is difficult. I will say it is. All of our staff did enjoy offering free lunch to everyone because they didn't have to collect these negative balances. And so we definitely appreciate all our food service workers, from counselors, CRWs, principals, secretaries. It takes the whole village to help, to collect on some of these balances so that our learners who do not qualify for free and reduced lunch, have money to purchase food, purchase breakfast and lunch there.
Have we seen any issues with that since it's had to be changed back?
Issues, there's been instances that have come up that we've looked, we do monitor it weekly, kind of the negative balances. It did spike and then it's come back down a little bit, district-wide, and it's broken down by school and even by field supervisor. And so it peaked at like $6,800 in the hole, and now we're down to about $5,900, which I think is at least manageable. Obviously, it was close. It was almost zero before that.
Yeah.
And so we're getting some grants that actually people are donating some money to help these negative balances, help our families out. So it's definitely a community effort there. Okay. The next one up for second reading is our bus transportation. And so there are two major changes to this, just as a refresher. I'll cover, I believe, the easier one first, and that's on that second page. And that's just the student use of electronic devices. Before, the policy was no cell phones, no electronic devices, but that really just... We realize that, as long as the main crux of this, as long as they're on silent and not sharing any pictures or taking pictures, any recordings or anything like that, that these could be used on the bus. And so that's the first change there. Actually, the second one on the page. And the second one, I believe that we've got some feedback on, is essentially... The analogy I used is kind of closing the door, but it won't go all the way shut. Closing the door of that our buses are currently used as a taxi service, for less of a better word, for some of our students after school. And so we put in language there and have and even tested some procedures of notes that the office fills out, and so we're all trying to be consistent there about and classifying it as an emergency, that we would be able to make an accommodation for a learner to ride a different bus route. But we would hopefully, again, close the door a little bit on what is termed an emergency.
Do you want discussion now or?
Now is the time for discussion.
Okay,
Yes.
I have discussion.
Please pull your mic down, so please pull your mic
Okay.
down so everybody can hear.
I completely disagree with this.
Okay, tell me your thoughts.
The one, we talk about we want local control for our district and our
Sure.
school use of funds and things like that.
Yeah.
You can't get more local than parents.
Okay.
So that's number one. And number two, with COVID, children were separated, kept at their homes, segregated, not allowed to socialize. That was damaging. And I don't think anybody would disagree with the fact that it was damaging
Sure.
to kids to be separated from one another. So if my priorities are, number one, the children. And I know that the bus drivers is so difficult for the administration and bus drivers. My daughter's bus driver, she loves her. loves her and waves at all the buses. I'm like, do you know her? And like, oh, I just thought it might be Shannon. Anyway, she loves her, and I appreciate the work they do. She's so great, and they're so great, and they work so hard, and they know the kids. You know, they've got a good relationship with them. So I appreciate the fact that it could be difficult for them when they've got other kids riding the bus, but I love what the parent said that wrote in, you know, they've got music lessons that they have at a different place, or they have, a lot of parents will do, I talked to another parent, they'll do like, they go to the cousin's house every Tuesday, then the cousin comes to their house every Thursday, whatever. It's not out of the way of the bus route. It's the same bus route. You know, they're just choosing a different, to be able to have that. And if they did not have the ability to get on the bus, I feel that anything that would target disadvantaged children more than more advantaged children, I am opposed to, because the children who would be at more of a disadvantage would be with those without as many resources to be able to drive their kids places, whether it's both parents work, whether it's they don't have money, the ability to get their child somewhere. So I feel like it could also increase the disadvantage of already disadvantaged children. But I think that the difficulty of allowing this, I feel like the benefits outweigh the difficulty. And I appreciate, like I said, the efforts, and I appreciate that it's very difficult sometimes. I do like this policy right here that where it said before that generally not available to transport children to group meetings, parties, or visit friends. I mean, that is what you do when you ride a bus home with someone. But parties, yeah, I think that that's not appropriate to say, oh, let's have my whole birthday party ride my bus. I don't like, I mean, I think that should probably, you know, but I think that that's already covered. Anyway, so those are my reasons. Children's mental health, because if children cannot socialize with other people because their parents are at work, that their options are, can we go socialize at someone's house, or do I go home to an empty house? And to me, I think if I'm thinking of children's mental health, I'm thinking socialization, study groups. My kids have done that. They'll say, hey, we need to study for a test, ride the bus home, study for the test, pick them up later, that kind of thing. But also music lessons. I feel like there's so many benefits for kids that when we had first reading, the two negatives that I heard that I asked about were sometimes the bus gets overcrowded, but I didn't hear any other negatives as far as reasons for this. Is there any other reasons besides the bus getting overcrowded?
There is that one. It's basically, I mean, you said a lot of great things, which I totally agree with on mental health and that. It's just, okay, what is our purpose of transporting the children? It's to and from their homes to the school and back. And so in the case of emergency, an empty home, of course, we don't want elementary students to go to an empty home. If the parent has an occasion that, okay, I'm not going to be home to meet my kindergartner at the bus, yes, definitely. We need
Like
to
if they're out of town, or
correct, or something,
if
or
they
caught
don't
up
make
at
it
work.
back from a doctor appointment.
That's correct. We're all in agreement there. I guess where I differ a little bit from you is that my thoughts are the play dates that, you know, even though, yes, and they were all together at school, right? But at home, our responsibility as a district and that driver, their goal is to, you know, deliver them to a safe home there. And then the mom or dad, you know, can then transport the kid there.
If the mom and dad are there.
If they are there,
But
sure.
if they are not, then that child does not have the ability to be able to socialize.
So I wasn't part of the first reading, so this is like,
Sure.
so,
Yeah.
but I'm listening to you. I don't think that's the school's responsibility.
It's not the school's
I
responsibility.
mean, in a perfect world, it would be great to be able to provide all of that, but I'm not sitting here thinking about the liability.
No, this has
You know,
always
where are
been
we
this
dropping
way.
this child off?
No, it's with parents' permission.
Well, but
with a signed note.
But who's gonna manage that, and who's gonna, I mean, that just.
It's the way
seems like
it's
a
always been
Herculean-
done, the way it's always been done.
And that's,
no, it's not.
So they have, oh, go ahead.
no, if I could just interject, the one thing that has changed is back in the back here. You know, because we struggle to find classified staff, right? Everybody from paras to food service and even to bus drivers. So
Yes.
we're making that a requirement to work in our transportation department, that you need to be able to drive bus. Out of 6 or 7 employees back in our office, there's up to 5 that actually get on a bus and drive, okay? So in the event of a note of a parent maybe not knowing where their child is, well, we only have 2 people back here to take those phone calls. And one is even dispatching, so they're trying to help the bus driver just through the regular process of, of transporting those kids back.
So has that been a problem? That's, I guess, what I'm asking. What is the reason for this, other than buses being
Okay, yes,
overcrowded
and
at
that,
times?
so that right there, it has been overcrowded, and then it's just to be able to support, because again, the notes are an exception. And we will,
So
and we,
doctor appointments would be included, if they're out of town, don't make it back in time.
and that's where the policy
mean-
that's in front of you is basically an emergency. We do want, because again, we're here to support our families and our learners in the event of emergency that happens. So yes, a doctor's appointment that came up, or mom or dad has to stay late at work. Yes, call the school, get a note. We will do everything in our power to do that.
Extenuating circumstance.
Well-
Correct, but it's just the play dates. And I understand with the piano lessons and the guitar lessons and any type of lesson there, it's just, I would hope that we could, again, this isn't gonna be a hard, fast rule, it's gonna kind of change, because it's happened forever. But in our current environment, we feel this does need to start narrowing the reasons for these notes to limit them to emergency.
And I
only.
do understand that, I think there are policies that would be maybe like, just more controlled, a more controlled environment. So I understand that for safety and these things like that.
Well, one of our first
But-
priorities is the safety of our children. And if we don't have some kind of control on that, if a kid got on a different bus that he's supposed to and went somewhere else and the parents didn't know and we have no control
Now,
over.
that I don't agree with.
Well,
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with a child getting on a bus without parents' permission. So that wouldn't be included in what I'm saying. What I'm saying is with a parent's permission, they can ride a bus. That is already going to that stop, not out of the bus route. And
And that right there is already in policy. They're not,
Yes.
they're not supposed to get on there. What we fight there is the forge, and this is the middle school, this is high schools, right? That kind of can forge mom and dad's, signature. And that's where we're trying to, get some consistency there. It's just every note, for example, I
so
drove
that's a
bus.
problem. That's been a problem, that there's been
Correct,
forging.
there has some limited, yes.
But there's
cases
been
of that.
problems with it, maybe the dispatcher or parents calling the school not
Correct,
knowing.
not knowing where
Okay,
they are.
I can understand that too.
Sure.
So, that could be eliminated with technology, but, because it would have to come from the parent via email or text, instead of a written note. Like, we've got technology that we haven't always had in the past. And if they say it has to come from, we have to have proof that it came from you, it's got to be email or text, that kind of thing, that would eliminate that.
Okay.
If we use that technology. So that's my opinion. Everybody doesn't have to agree, but
And
that
we'll-
is my
We can have
opinion.
some more discussion when we get to this action item later.
That's
But
true
Mr.
too.
Balls, just for clarification, there is a lot of, I'm just gonna say, a lot of discretion with the principals to
Absolutely.
determine which child goes on which bus, because they know family dynamics and situations, and oftentimes know if someone needs to go home on Thursday, and they have a note, and they have verbal communication and confirmation from a parent, then I would say it would be very unlikely that the principal and Mr. Watson,
Correct.
Mrs. Pettit could agree to this, that I think in most circumstances that are extenuating circumstances, or maybe even more routine could be provided for by the note. But we can,
A routine, you mean as in piano lessons or,
perhaps, and I don't know.
or something like,
Watson-
or what do you
Watson
mean by
with this,
routine?
Mrs. Harris too, almost messed that one up. But just coming out of the buildings, they have some firsthand experience with this from the elementary, which I think is probably more prevalent even into middle schools a little bit, but by high school, you know, they're all driving, getting in somebody's car.
No one
going
knows where
wherever.
anyone
So,
is.
Yeah, so I think we're talking middle school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess just from that perspective, in terms of, there is some discretion by the principal in terms of what, you know, is allowed and not allowed, and trying to avoid some of those bigger things, the parties, you know, going for a big group, maybe scouting event or something, and trying to make it more discretionary, just in terms of, is this truly an important need, and not just sometimes, you know, the friends get together during the day and like, hey, let's go ride the bus together, and us being like, your parents don't know, we're not going to allow that, you can't call home to take care of that during the school day. But there is definitely some discretion that the administrators use in making these decisions, but also making sure that everyone's getting home safely. And we all have been there when we've lost someone that got off at the wrong stop or didn't get off where they were supposed to, and it's not a good situation for anyone. It makes us all very nervous trying to track them down, very nervous parents.
Okay, so-
I don't know
Yes,
about
go ahead.
Ariel.
So if what I'm hearing is then if a parent has a child that needs to go to piano lessons on a certain day a week, they need to call and talk to the principal and let them know maybe what's going on and why.
That it will not be allowed at Franklin, because according to that parent's letter, that's exactly what she was talking about. Her daughter had, was it violin lessons or something? Let me see.
Yeah.
Guitar, okay. And that's what she was talking about, is under no circumstances, they were saying, unless it's an emergency. And so they were considering that not emergency, which it isn't an emergency. It's not an emergency. So I agree with that. But I don't agree with that parents shouldn't know. I mean, it has to come from the parents.
Right.
So that's not a part of what I am saying. But also, it's already a policy at Idaho. I don't know about other elementaries that they cannot call the school, they cannot call their parents to say, hey, can I ride the
Right.
bus with?
Can we have
They
a play
can't
date
do
with
that in the
so-and-so
school day. That's
after
already a policy
Yeah.
at Idaho. I can't speak for the other elementaries, but they can't do stuff like that.
Yeah, and most of the
So-
other elementaries are, I mean, it's not a policy, but follow those same guidelines, because
Yeah.
it gets a little out of control.
Yeah, that
They're
would
missing a lot of
be-
instruction.
They'd
They
have
all
a
want to
big
go home with
line
friends.
At the end of every
Yes.
school day. Yeah, I think that's wise to not let them do that.
I think we just need to consider those bus drivers too.
It's,
And they're getting, you know, they've got a lot of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And to pile more on is, I don't think worth doing.
They wouldn't be responsible for getting the permission. They would just be responsible for accepting the note. That has already been vetted.
correct.
You know, they don't
Correct.
have to decide, oh, is this
Yeah,
a
no, they
forgery, or
won't be
is
the
this,
police.
or, you know, they don't have to
Right.
determine any of that. That would be determined beforehand, and the bus driver would just accept the note, okay, you can come. You know, so they don't have to do any of the vetting. At least that's the way I understand it.
And that's correct. I will say, because I do have a CDL, I have driven bus before several years, and it is, every note, even you know the route, it adds a little bit more stress to an already stressful job. When you do get these exceptions, the note, it's a different dynamic of a kid. You know your kid's on the bus, even as a sub, you kind of know the kids, but when you interject another kid, you're looking in the back mirror just a little bit more, just watching, just to make sure the dynamic of this one new individual, new learner on the bus is fitting well with the rest of the bus.
Right.
It is,
I-
but
yeah,
again, we
it's
do
not
that, that's their
difficult.
job. And it's just, we want to just narrow that for emergencies. So, again, you have the language in front of you, you can adopt it, change it, third read it, whatever to change it, whatever you'd feel.
Thank you.
So, and that'll be considered under action, I believe, is that?
Yep.
Is that,
You're right.
I believe that's the rest of me.
Right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm gonna move this over there.
Oh, yeah.
For me. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have employee services presented by Carl Smart. He'll talk about Infinite Campus IC Technology Department update, Policy 7605, fringe benefits, second reading, and pay manual revisions for 2022, 2023.
Okay, we'll be short and sweet with our update because kind of right now, we're just in a mode where we're just moving right along with school year. But we are preparing now for our first IC submission, which starts in actually a week and a half. And so we have a couple of weeks to get our first IC submission sent to the state for the month of October. So that's going to be our big focus come the first part of October. And other than that, talking with the folks in technology, they're just maintaining right now, so things are going well. Number B, policy 7605. This is an update that's going to kind of work in tandem with our updates with our pay manual, which is item number C. And updating a couple things in policy, mainly the item about personal leave. And we did get some feedback when we issued this as a first reading a month ago. And so with that feedback, we did update the coverage for the medical, dental, vision, that very first paragraph in that policy to reflect the change to the state plan. I think those changes are minimal, which are obvious basically, and I think we can still adopt this on second reading this evening, if that's your choice. And of course, then we have our pay manual updates. We talked a little bit about this last week. And there are more changes in this one than typically we would have. And that's because of most of these are based on the changes in the insurance with the state. There's also 2 or 3 other additions in here that we are suggesting. And one of them being the personal leave changing from 3-month waiting period to 7-month. And did I say 7 to 3?
To 3.
Yeah, let's make it longer, yeah. So 7 to 3. And talk a little bit about, in one section here, about insurance, or not insurance, vacation time. If they're an existing employee, they won't have to wait for the entire year if they've worked for us for at least 2 years, and so they can get their vacation a little more timely. And of course, there's another one about COVID leave. COVID leave, we're going to remove that as an option for our employees. If they get sick, they have to use sick leave. So COVID was basically put in 2 years ago to take care of a CARES Act initiative, and so it's no longer really valid, so we're going to take that out as an option for our employees to use. It'll be just sick leave, or if they have vacation or personally, they're going to use that as well. So you did see the summary of changes. We did talk a little bit about this last week. We are asking you to adopt this tonight, and if it is adopted by the board, there are a couple of things we will change, we'll work over the next week or so, and the big one being updating the personal leave for those folks who have personal leave already on the books in the future. We're bringing it back 4 months, so that's already in the works. So with that concludes my report tonight.
Thank you. Okay, human resources will be rolled over into October. And next on the agenda is superintendent's report, which will be presented by Dr. Howell.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have the one item for you, and that's the board calendar. And certainly you've all been participating earlier today in an executive session, tonight's meeting, and then directly following this regular meeting, we've called for a special meeting, which we will consider real property. And then on Thursday, September 22nd, looks like Mrs. Bowie will lead her first district curriculum committee, and she's excited to do that. We have a couple of representatives, Mrs. Judy and Mr. Vitale, on that committee. And next up will be the 27th is Key Communicators Network. And Mrs. Fisher and myself, we have gone through that agenda, and I think we have a good lineup ready to go. We have confirmed a couple of new members on that network or that committee, and so we'll look forward to welcoming them. On the 28th.
Can I ask you a quick question about
You
the
bet.
key communicators?
Uh-huh.
If somebody would like to be a part of that, who would they talk to? I
Courtney?
just had somebody ask me.
Oh, sure,
And
yeah,
I
Courtney,
might-
call me, either one of us, you
Okay.
bet.
Courtney.
Okay, and then we need, or Ms. Johnson, sure. Yeah, and then as far as the board members, I know we just tried to rotate that a little bit, so it wasn't the same two attending each time. But if you'll just let Renee know of your interest, and then she can stagger those so that we get those that want to attend mixed in every, other month or something. And then we have student discipline hearings scheduled for next Wednesday. I believe we have 4 scheduled. That'll be on the 28th. And then October 4th, not on your calendar, we may have overlooked this one. I would like to get the board into schools and get you into a school visit. Typically, those start anywhere from 8 to 9 o'clock, or department-type meetings or visits. And so we'll get a schedule coordinated with you for times on the 4th, and if you have availability. And certainly that, is up to your professional schedule as well, because we know you have commitments with your jobs and so forth. But even if we could work out a different time or a different date that's more convenient, we'd be happy to do that for you as well. Okay? But typically, it is that first Tuesday of each month. But again, we can work around your schedules. So just let Renee know what works for you, and we'll make it happen. And then, let's see, we have parent-teacher conferences beginning October 6th for no elementary only. And then on the 7th, it's all school students, on the 7th. The 11th, Community Prevention Committee meeting, that's a mouthful. And if you're interested, please RSVP to Renee, and she'll get you set up for that. Board work session on the 11th as well at 3:30, and then student discipline hearings on the 12th. That takes us out a month to regular board meeting on the 16th at 5:30. And so that is. 18th, sorry. Yep. There you go. And that's my presentation for you tonight, at least for the regular meeting.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Next on the agenda is public written comment pertinent to the agenda item, action items. Input was received relative to the policy revision and was included in the packet. I have no request for public comment on the agenda action items, so we'll move on. We'll move on to action items. First on the agenda of businesses to adopt the 2022-2023 continuous improvement plan. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I hereby move that the board adopt the 2022-2023 continuous improvement plan as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Next on is the eye of businesses to hear first reading on adoption policy 8203, graduation requirements. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear on first reading for adoption the below listed policies presented, policy 8203, the graduation requirements.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion, any opposed? That motion passed. Next on the agenda is to approve the high school speech debate schedule inclusive of travel. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the high school speech debate schedules inclusive of travel as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion also passed. Next on the agenda is to approve the camp request. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the camp request as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Next on the agenda is to authorize the extension of the cheer season. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board authorize the extension of the cheer season as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Next, business to hear on second reading for adoption the following: Policy 5304, School Food Service Program, Policy 7605, Fringe Benefits, and Policy 8603, Bus Transportation. Is there a motion?
I hereby move the board here on second reading for the adoption of the below listed policies as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Any opposed?
Oh, no, sorry. I was too
Wait,
excited
If
to
there's discussion,
say no.
what's,
Okay, so the motion was for all three policies. If there is another motion, well, there's been a second, so we just vote on it as is. But there is the option if you want to have a motion to do each of the policies separately, that you could move through first reading for adoption, this one, so that we can separate those out if you'd like.
I would like to move that we hear policy 5304, 7605, set 8603 separately.
Okay?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then, so we'll have second reading on policy 5304, School Food Service Program. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board here on second reading for adoption, policy 5304, school food service program.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passed. Adoption for our policy 7605, Fringe Benefits. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear on second reading for adoption, policy 7605, fringe benefits.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Okay, and then adoption for policy 8603, bus transportation. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear on second reading for adoption, policy 8603, bus transportation.
Is there a second? Okay. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to see maybe if parents could, like I said, if they have one day a week, that they have lessons or something, if the parents could set that up with the school, so it's not a note that's going home, but something that's been pre-approved with the parents through the school. That's a thoughts.
Jonathan's had a lot of communication with Transportation Department. Maybe if you could come up and field that question, Jonathan, based upon what you've heard and experienced and discussed with Transportation Coordinator and supervisors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It really goes back to just that overarching thing of what do you want the bus transportation to do? Yes, I think we can very easily justify that. It's still kind of being a transport, it's a worthy activity and it's definitely helpful, especially Mondays. I've got a note back there saying in Monday afternoons early release, they're doing that. But it's back to, okay, we're basically kind of being a taxi service for our musicians. And is that what the board wants to do? We can, because we've done that for years and years and years. So we still could do that, kind of even put it into policy, and do that. When we talked about that today, again, if it's already established, I'm okay with, doing that for the rest of that season, but I would hope that those would even start to go away. that when parents realize, no, I shouldn't be able to use the bus for that, and then I'll make other arrangements for my child's lessons.
No,
That's my thoughts, but it's your
Well-
decision.
I also noticed in her letter that the transportation department communicated with her that they were talking about doing seat assignments. So is that part of what the discussion is as well,
So,
on individual buses?
so obviously
bus
that's,
driver always has had the option to assign seats, right?
that is
Always.
correct. Yeah, so
Oh, yeah,
that,
my kids have sat in the front of the bus. I am not gonna lie.
correct.
I'm like, well, you deserve it.
The seat assignments for either our smallest learners or for behavioral issues, that has always been a school policy.
So
School
so if we stay with this year, I mean, parents didn't know until recently that this issue was changing, right? Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay,
yes.
so
That's-
going forward, they need to, like, the coming year, need to plan other driving resources for their children.
that is what I would recommend, yes.
Not adopt it this year, adopt it next year? Or
I
change it?
I would still recommend, that you adopt the policy there, and then, as Mr. Watson had said, that we'll give the flexibility to the principals to do that, and that lesson might be, there might not be a parent at home early release on a Monday, and so that's why they scheduled that lesson. If
mean,
there is other options for the lessons, I hope they would take that. Go ahead.
My music background, I 100% support music and extracurricular, and I understand, your point of there are some underserved children that are disadvantaged if they don't have the ability to get there. But at the same time, I think I side with where the district is going, is that we cannot be the taxi service. I mean, that's part of when you're putting your kids into some of these activities, is helping them find other, transportation, I agree, huge issue for
Our piano
everybody.
teacher is done by 6, so that would preclude anyone who was not able, any parents that work, they just wouldn't get them. But we don't have to agree.
I think
I
it
am
just
voting
the-
no,
the
but it's okay if you.
Herculean effort
vote
to
yes.
juggle all of it, to manage it, and as he mentioned, the staffing. I appreciate that we're allowing the individual schools and their principals to have some discretion. They know those kids, they know those families. Those are where those relationships, and how those kinds of arrangements could be. This is a tough one.
So
I get
in an
it, but I'm-
emergency, if it's a doctor appointment, or if the parents didn't make it home from out of town, or from something like that, is it up to the principal to determine if that's an emergency,
So-
or is it an emergency?
Thank you for that question. So we met, Mr. Watson was having an elementary principal meeting this morning, and I interjected myself to discuss this exact thing. And they know their parents the best. The other thing is, I was clear to them, I don't want them to be the emergency police. I don't want to add to our administrators' duty there. So if they get a note saying that, okay, I need my child to go on this, for this reason and so forth, they will, pass along that note.
I think the other message
So-
this sends, though, to
but-
parents is that this is not a casual, oh, I've got a doctor's appointment, it'll be on the bus route, let's just schedule it because of that. It truly should, hopefully this would allow parents to truly find it as an emergency if it had to
Right.
be. And don't make those kind of schedules based on convenience, I guess.
And that's exactly right. For convenience sake, that's what I'm trying to close the door on, for convenience.
Well, and I hope that parents can see that they're doing this for the safety
Absolutely.
of the children. Because I don't remember this because I was only 5, but my mom tells me I got left on a bus. I didn't get off at my stop
Okay.
because I was a kindergartner.
Sure.
I was scared. I was with the big kids, so I just stayed in my seat. But my parents were freaking out. Didn't know where I was, what bus I was on. So I would hope that parents can see this as the school district really trying to keep their kids safe
Correct.
and
And that's the,
Right.
know
agree.
where they're at.
I
and
agree.
that's the message that we would
Good.
go. Then we have some things even coming in the spring that we can bring to you. You know, we still need to work out all the details that would even help that even more, you know, so, yeah, the parents would know, you know, what bus they're supposed to be on and have, yeah, some of these advanced technologies. And so we're anxious to kind of see how that goes in the spring.
So I just want to clarify, the seating assignments, is that coming from the district office? I mean, I know that bus drivers have always been able to say, hey, you need to sit in the front, you know, behavior or of the age or a special situation or need. But other than that, I mean,
Sure.
can you talk
So,
about that?
well,
Is
seating
that
assignments-
going to be a policy or?
That's not gonna be mandatory under this, is it?
No,
No, it wouldn't be in
I-
policy. It's more a seating chart. Because again, it's, okay, if you're gonna always sit in that chair, then please sit there for the, you know, the remainder of the time. And then you're gonna sit next to
So it would be
Jane.
a seating.
It would be a seating chart, not a seating assignment for most of the
Self-selected.
riders on there.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't like that either, but, okay.
And that was more of a kind of procedure, and we could maybe talk about that. I have reasons for that as well.
Okay, I'm sure that there would be really good reasons.
Okay, it's been motioned and second. We had a discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passed. The final item of business is to adopt the pay manual revision for 2022-2023. Is there a motion?
Hereby move that the board adopt the pay manual revisions for the 2022-2023 as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passed. That concludes this meeting. Now I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second?
Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That,
Adjourn to special